Welcome to Allie's Attic Show, where you never know what kind of surprise you're going to find in my attic. I'm your host, Allie, and today my surprise is a solo artist, singer, songwriter, and guitar player. Please welcome Antonio Palazzo. Hello. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to talk about your songs. I love your music. I'm just telling you right now. Now, you, how long, okay, so you started out as one artist, and then you kind of came back as a solo artist, and you've had a lot of things happening with your music and how everything goes. So tell me, like, your story. Like, when did you decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and tell me everything in between?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess starting from the beginning, as a kid, I was always really fascinated by music. When I was really young, before I found out it was, an actual possibility to create or play music, I would just feel music a lot. So it was, kind of this magical feeling for me. I would just feel really happy or really sad when, my parents had music on. And I also have mild synesthesia, so when I would listen to music, it was just so vibrant and impactful and colorful. So it was just very special to me, and, I just had this, magical, sense toward it. So
you have what?
I always had this weird, appreciation for it. And then I would always write too, and it was just this weird thing. Ever since I could write, I did write, and it wasn't really anything. I didn't know what poems were or anything like that, but I had this little yellow lunchbox that I would just write things down during the day, and then just put it in the box. Didn't do anything about it. So it was just this weird documenting process that I just inherently did. So that was kind of an indication later on that I kind of can recollect that spoke to me as an artist. But when I was in elementary school, for some reason I wanted a microphone. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, but it was just something that seemed like a fun thing to have. So my mom bought me a microphone, and I immediately just kind of started recording things, and I would write little sketches for my sister. We'd do a fake radio show and things like that. So I was pretty much a visionary. I was a podcaster before podcasting was a thing. So
okay, I just wanted you to go back to, okay, so what do you have?
Synesthesia. It's a very mild form of it, but it's essentially something that you associate or you can visualize colors when you hear sound.
Oh, wow.
So, for example, me, when I hear music or different parts of songs, different colors kind of flow through. So you can kind of I don't know, I kind of visualize music more than, just hearing it in audio.
Okay. So carry on. Sorry, I just was like, what? I heard you, but I didn't hear you. I wanted to make sure I got that. That is so cool.
So we would, so from there I would basically kind of I would just start writing songs about people I knew, kind of making fun of things, parody stuff like that. And then, I would, write things down, and it was just kind of a fun thing. So, didn't really think anything of it, but both my parents, they're not musicians, but they both appreciate music very much. So growing up, I had a lot of very good unconscious exposure as a kid, musical exposure. My mom was really into pop music, so I heard a lot of the Beatles, Bee Gees, 50s, doo-wop, Motown, stuff like that, where my dad was more classic rock, so I got to hear bands like Led Zeppelin, Queen, The Who, Pink Floyd, AC/DC, all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that was kind of meddling around in my head. And in school, I grew up listening to hip-hop, R&B, things like that, but I wasn't really inspired to play music until I heard or was introduced to punk rock as a teenager. And what really drew me into that music was really the simplicity of the melodies and the choruses. So I just kind of admired these guys who, didn't really have the best technically trained singing voices or really could play their instruments particularly well. But, at the time as a teenager, it kind of struck a chord in me, and the simplicity of it all kind of just gave me the validation and, the courage to try something. And I just felt really connected to it and was inspired to go out and get a guitar. I taught myself how to play guitar by ear, so I just kind of hammered out my favorite records, and with those that knowledge of like chords and things like that, I began to write songs of my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I never was, and still I'm not great at any one instrument. So it was kind of tough for me to get out there and join a band, since I really couldn't compete with people who've been playing all their lives. So I kind of took the songs. They were terrible songs at the time that I had, and I started my own band. And I was fortunate enough to find a group of guys who became really great friends to me and allowed me to become a better musician. So being in a band was just a really great experience. Just taught me a lot about music and life and producing music, business, friendship, and just kind of really overall following through on stuff, which certainly helped me later on. In the time that I played in the band, we played over 100 shows in just like a few years that we played together. But as great of an experience as it was, there became a time where I kind of felt a little bit creatively constrained and just felt stagnant because I was getting inspired by new types of music, and I felt like I wanted to explore it, but I was kind of confined to the rock format just because we just had our instruments and there was nothing else I could do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it became a little bit frustrating for me, and at that time I kind of stepped back and began to focus on other endeavors because I was pretty young and music wasn't making money for me, and I was at an age where I needed to choose a path. So I stepped back, started a great career that I loved, and things were good. But the interesting thing about being an artist is that creativity doesn't turn off. So the years that I wasn't active in music, songs just still kept coming through me. So I did what I always did and just documented things, and over a period of time I had enough material for this full length album. So I had all of these songs in me, and I just needed to kind of get them out. So I sought out a producer who I currently work with. His name is Paul Ariel, and I brought him the song and that I had written, and we kind of developed them together. But I just feel very fortunate to have met him because this guy just lives and breathes music. He's just a very inspiring person to be around.
Nice.
He's the type of guy who can hear a door creak and like find the key that it's in and transcribe that into notes on paper.
Oh my God.
He's great.
Wow.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he challenges me to do my best work, and I'm very appreciative of him, to be on my team. So together we developed these songs, and I wrote all these songs on acoustic guitar, so I kind of just sketched everything out and brought him this material, and together we kind of mapped out the feel for this stuff, and we kind of developed the songs together. So together we developed 11 songs, and it was my first release under the artist name Avo, and that album was called In a World with No Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later I put out another EP called Violet Island.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, Avo, that project was kind of me getting my toes back into the water. I felt like I just needed to get some stuff out, took some creative risks, which I think worked out for me. The second EP kind of got the attention of a major label. At this time, I won't say which one just because I still have a working relationship with them, but it's one of the big three. So earlier this year, I met with the global vice president of AR for this group, and it was a very surreal experience, to say the least. And it was really eye-opening, too. It just made me realize, having this meeting, that these labels are, in the business of they're selling units, not art, which isn't necessarily bad, but, it's just that if you're trying to achieve, if that's what you're trying to achieve, you have to tailor your music in a way. So, I was told that my music had special DNA, but it lacked pop direction. So I don't know what the intention of that comment was, but I took it as a compliment. So I kind of went back to the drawing board, and I wanted to create a bridge between like commercially appeasing songs, but something that's still, unique and personal and meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I kind of decided to rebrand myself with my current project, Passeitano, which is what I'm currently releasing now. I released an EP called Silent Storm, and it's a 5 song EP, and that's what we're talking about today.
Wow. That was quite the journey. Okay, I love that you met with one of the top 3 and took that possible criticism and turned it around into a compliment. And I love that you talk about units instead of art, because as we all know, independent artists have it rough. And you have to have a certain sound and a certain look and a certain this and a certain that to like break through. So, I mean, amazing that you still have a working relationship with them and they met with you. I'm glad that you're still indie. I'm just saying. And
absolutely.
You get to, I think you have way more creative freedom that way.
Absolutely.
Now,
and it's funny because one comment also that kind of rings true to my mind is that, at the end of the meeting, we were speaking, and he says, he's like, just, remember that we get sent 100 songs a day by the best songwriters and the best singers in the world. And at that time I was like, wow, like, he said, essentially, if you want to compete with that, you really have to send the best. So I kind of took that in a way, but the more I thought about it, the more I kind of am in the camp of that, music is a subjective thing, and it's, things that are very meaningful and good to one person don't necessarily translate to somebody else,
Yeah.
So it's a very loaded question, or loaded comment, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And it's probably, a push. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I listen to mainstream radio, and I listen to, the top 40 and all that stuff. Like, I love Ed Sheeran. I love Niall Horan, Adele, all those people. But I find myself, if I'm listening, an artist will play and then the next artist will play, and I'm like, wait, are they having like back-to-back artists? Like, are they playing, 2 for Tuesday? What is this? And then the third song will come on, and I'm like, I can't tell the difference, and I have to actually go look. And that's where the industry is going wrong. I'm just going to say. And that's why I love delving into the indie world, because I get all of this variety and I can tell who's who. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very formulaic, and I understand why, and it makes sense. I think that since the beginning of the music industry, it's always been that way. It's go for it, get to the chorus, which is great. And I love pop music also. I do. I always have, and I always will.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I think that indie music, especially nowadays, there's probably some of the greatest music that's ever been created. Like, there's stuff that's being done now with, electronics, and, we're making sounds that aren't even musical instruments,
exactly.
And, it's just a very exciting time in music in general, especially indie.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's going to be a turn. And I mean, the artists that are mainstream are so talented, but they're being told, this is what we want you to sound like, because it's working. We're selling, so keep doing it. And it's the industry. It's not the musicians. Now your music's like electronic ambient to like heavier, aggressive tracks, all the way to like fun and lighthearted. And I love how you like mix everything. Like, do you do all that yourself, or is that your producer?
No, I do. So essentially, I guess the comment that would like answer that question is when we met, I kind of like was explaining things, and like, well, I can't really do this, but this is what I want. And he's like, hey, listen, he's like, if you can imagine it, like, we can do it. So essentially, like, I have all of these ideas in my mind. I sometimes can't actually physically play them, or things like that. So it's a really fun process when him and I kind of just blank slate, and we can just kind of create these things from scratch, and they come out in a lot of different a lot of different ways, and it's super fun.
Well, and I love that you love challenging listeners with subject matter and lyrics. I absolutely love that because I think in the world today we need to be challenged. And I think musicians have I mean it's unfortunate, but I think they have they should be getting messages out there right now to like help our world because I'm a big believer in turn off the news, turn on the music. And I love that you challenge and that you do, write the subject matter and lyrics that you write because I think it's important.
Thank you.
Now,
awesome.
Because you've gone through everything that you've gone through, Anthony, with, starting out in bands and then kind of taking a step back and then coming back because it's in your blood. And I mean, as most indie musicians know, it's a passion and it's a drive and you can't ignore it. And if you do, you end up being very unhappy at the end of the day kind of deal. I mean, I know I'm the same way with this show. So based on what you've gone through, what kind of advice would you give somebody that's either just starting out or has been in the industry for a while, just based on what you've gone through?
Yeah. So I think being an artist now, there's two ways you have to look at things in terms of creating and in terms of business. Because essentially, as an artist, if you want your music to be received, you have to have business behind it. So I guess in terms of creating, writing and producing can be difficult, but I've over the years I've found success in being systemized. I went from writing things down on post-it notes to now I have books and spreadsheets full of ideas, lyrics, melodies, chord progressions, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a very deep catalog of ideas to turn to when I'm stuck. I've found it's the only way to keep producing songs. You can drive yourself nuts by writing, because the truth is a song can always be better, no matter what. The problem is that you find yourself kind of in this rabbit hole where you're chasing something that you may never find. So my philosophy has become in recent is that done is better than perfect. If you feel a song, if you feel a part of a song can be better and have an idea for it, then use it for a new song or a different part of that. But the beauty is that there will always be another song and there will always be another idea, and there's never any good ideas to run out of. But in terms of business, I would say just never get discouraged. Your music will and does have an audience, whether you found it or not. You can't compare yourself to your success or lack thereof with anyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
I think music is a form of art which is subjective to interpretation and it can't be measured. I'd say find your audience and build from there, and treat your art like a startup. Build a team. If you need help with technical stuff, help get somebody to do that. If you're not good at marketing, get a marketing person, PR, all that stuff. So your art is just like businesses. You'll experience rejection, and it's part of it. Just because your art is personal and meaningful to you doesn't mean that it'll fit the needs of everyone else out there. So I think that people need to find out, what your art can serve and who your art can serve, and then aggressively attack that avenue. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
That's great advice. That is amazing advice.
Thank you.
You are such a good speaker. How old are you, Anthony, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 35 years old.
Oh my God, you don't sound it at all.
Well, I am, yeah. But honestly, it's like in my heart of hearts, I am the most introverted person ever. When I was a kid, I barely, spoke to anyone, and I had a couple of friends who helped me kind of come out of my shell, but I still am very, very introverted.
Really, I never would have guessed. No, I never would have guessed your age, and I never would have guessed you're introverted because this interview is just like, okay, I'll just sit back and listen. And that's the way, that's why I love doing my interviews the way I do, because I mean, I'm always curious, right, about artists that I have coming on.
Yeah.
So I get to sit back and listen to their story, and that's why I love doing what I do. Because yeah, and I'm so glad that you've come out of your shell enough that you're, doing this music now, and you're obviously talking to people about it, which is amazing. Now, what 2 songs are we going to hear from you?
So I actually did a cover version of the original Stone song, Under My Thumb, and the other one is an original I wrote called What Is It Good, Love, What Is It Good For?
Okay, now let's talk about Under My Thumb. Because you say Rolling Stones, I say Street Heart. And I guess that's the difference in our age, maybe, or just the difference of what kind of music we like. But Street Heart did an amazing, amazing cover of Under My Thumb. It's originally the Rolling Stones, everybody, just so everybody knows, because it's been covered by Ministry. It's Stephen Bishop. It's been covered by tons of people. It blew me away. And when you, in your bio, when you said Rolling Stones, I was like, what? They did that song? Because I know it is Street Heart, and you do an amazing job with it. And just so everybody knows, if you want to hear, go to my website, but it's also going to be on Allie's Amplified Attic on Sunday. I'm playing it because I love the song, but I love what you've done with it. Like, Antonio, it's gorgeous. I just love it. And I love the original you did too. So they're both going to be on. But I want to say, you can purchase your music pretty much anywhere online, plus your website, which is tatetano.com. And it'll be up on my website, people, so don't worry about how it's spelled. I'll put it up there, and it'll link directly to Antonio's website. I was saying earlier, my grandson's name's Mateo. So every time I looked at Tatetano, I was like just about saying his name. I love the name. I don't know where you came up with it, but I love it.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and making the music you do. And I wish you the best success, and anything new happens, please, please come back on the show. And please keep sending me great music, because you make great music. So yeah, all the best to you, Antonio.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I think that you're doing a wonderful thing, and keep doing what you're doing as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me on Allie's Attic Show. Keep checking my website, because you never know what kind of surprises you're going to find in my attic. Have a great weekend. Cheers.